in game week. Certainly longly anticipating this matchup against a great and historic program in the University of Texas. Coach Strong is going into the second year here is certainly a coach that I have a lot of respect for. Know what he's done, a long career as an assistant coach. Obviously coaching here at Notre Dame, but more importantly, what he's done in program building, and I think we saw that last year with what he did at Louisville. Brought a very good Louisville team in here last year under Coach Pacino, but we know a lot of that was his work. That was his fingerprint was on that team. So great program builder. He'll do the same thing at Texas. You can already see that taking shape. In particular in the recruitment of a very good young football team. Again, they play hard. Defensively, I think last year, they really kept their team in a number of games, and certainly, as they were trying to find themselves on offense. I think they're a lot further along now this year in year two. I think you start with the quarterback. Tyrone now is much more comfortable at the position. He can throw the ball. In particular, I think he does a great job pushing the ball down the field. He's got a strong arm. And, again, I think the offense suits him very well. I think they're in the kind of offense that takes advantage of his skill set. So I think, Swoops has some great weapons. Both the Johnson receivers got great speed. Are weapons in the Big 12 that you would come accustomed to see, whether they're at Oklahoma or Texas, TCU. These are very talented wide receivers. A young kid in looks really good. The Burt kid, he was impressive on film, but I think they've got great balance with Jonathan Gray. He was out with the Achilles, but you could see him coming in to his own later in the year as you watched film, and I think he's going to be at the top of his game. So great speed at the wide receiver position. I think a quarterback who feels really comfortable in the offense that they're running, and then an outstanding running back in Gray. So I think you're going to see an offense that really is going to be a challenge for us. Defensively, as I mentioned, they've lost some talented players, but they bring back some very good ones. I think Ridgeway is a guy that's difficult to deal with on the inside. I think Davis on the outside, and then I really like Hughes, number 40, very athletic, can run. I think he's going to be a nice edge player for him. So they've got some really nice athletes on defense. Jefferson, the freshman, can run. So what you would expect from a Texas defense. Big and physical, knows some edge players that can run. On the back end, Duke Thomas has got, 20-something starts, a veteran corner. Really like the Bonnie kid who's playing nickel for him, very versatile. And the safeties are returners, played a lot of football. So veteran back end presence. Physical guys that can run on defense, got a very good system, well coached on the defensive side. Coach Bever does a great job of putting them in the right position. They keep the points down. They did that last year. And you have to earn everything you get against Texas. They're not going to give you anything defensively. You've got to earn everything that you get offensively. So should be a great test for us in an opener. This is these are the kind of openers that really test you in everything that you do. You have to be fundamentally sound. You've got to take care of the football, and you're playing against quality athletes that are well coached. So this will be one heck of an opener for us that will be challenged. So looking forward to it, and should be exciting between two great programs in Texas and Notre Dame. So with that, open it up to questioning.
Brian, with Malik, how does maybe he compare mentally, emotionally going into this opener than he was the LSU game, which was his first collegiate start?
Yeah, it's a totally different Malik Zaire. I think it was a lot of it was first start, not sure what to expect from him. We knew that he was a young man that had the ability to do some things in the run game. Weren't sure what he could do in the passing game. We saw that, certainly he was capable. But his development has been so much more since that game, through the spring, through the summer, and now in the pregame. He's much more developed in all phases of the game, a lot more confident, and certainly a lot more in tune with all of the receivers and the offensive line, and just much more comfortable with everybody as the starting quarterback.
I know with a lot of quarterbacks as they go through the season, especially as a first-year starter, defensive coordinators like to test them. Can they handle 8 in a box? Can they handle rush 3, drop 8, and things like that? Can you simulate that as a coach? Do you feel like he's seen all that as he goes into this season, or does that evolution have to play out during the season in games?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think, as coaches, we certainly present all of those challenges to them in practice, right? Drop 8, overload pressures, and we present all that to them. But those are just quizzes, The test is when it happens in real time. And so I don't know that you really know for sure until you get the test. We think we've given him many opportunities to react, and he's reacted very well to all of those kinds of scenarios that you mentioned. But I don't think you really feel confident until you get those opportunities. We know that he's going to go in there and be poised and has seen all the looks that he could get. But there's going to be a time or two where, he's going to see something that he's not sure of, and we hope that he defaults back to the foundation that we've given him. And if he does that and defaults back to the foundation, he'll get through those moments.
I know we've kind of bugged you about the offensive play calling, and you mentioned Mike Sanford is going to be upstairs, but who exactly is calling the plays, and how's that going to work?
Yeah, we're going to collaborate. There'll be collaboration. Mike Sanford, myself, Coach Denbrock, there'll be collaboration on Saturday.
But you have the final veto?
I do. I do.
Max Redfield, I know the one day you were upset because there was a couple orange cones playing safety that day.
Yeah.
But overall, what have you seen from him?
Very, very solid play in all facets, leadership, communication, tackling, playing the ball in the air. He's had a really good camp. He's a different player than he was last year. He's a much more mature player. He's much more mature in everything that he does on a day-to-day basis. So that just is carried on to what he does on the football field. So feel really good about Max Redfield as one of our safeties, no question.
And Folston it seems like his first couple of years here, he's just kind of been slow out of the gates. You've wanted him to show more of, I don't know, being a number one back or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you seeing any more of that this year that he might get off to a stronger start?
I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to see a little bit more than maybe we saw at times last year. And don't get me wrong, we were pleased with a lot of the things that he did last year for us. I'm a big fan of Tarean Folston. I have a higher expectation of him at times than he does of himself. And that's where we continue to communicate on a day-to-day basis, that I think there's so much more out there for him. And I've seen that kind of manifest itself in practice. He's had a really good couple of weeks of practice, and I hope to see that come out on Saturday, because I think he's a terrific back, and I think there's much more for him to achieve.
Last one from me. Equanimeous, such a fascinating family. I wonder what that home visit was like with former Mr. Universe and the whole family. And then the other part of that is he giving you less peaks and valleys than what he was. You had mentioned that there were days where he'd rise up. Are you seeing a more steady, consistent performance?
Yeah. It was an interesting home visit. I was greeted at the door with his dad with a GoPro on his head. It was the first time that I was taped going into a home visit, so I was kind of a little nervous at first. But it's a wonderful family. As you know, they speak German in the home itself. They're also fluent in French, so it was good because I was totally confused most of the night, which I think that's why we got him, because I couldn't talk. It was perfect. But he's a wonderful kid, a wonderful family. But I think that that's probably right, the way you put it, is that he has not been one that has had the high peaks and the low valleys. I think what I was most impressed with him is that when he had a pretty good ankle sprain, he came back in less than 2 days. And that said a lot about his maturity. That said a lot about probably how he was brought up in that home. As you know, the dad is former Mr. Universe, and I'm sure there's not a lot of slacking in the home. And you could see that in Equanimeous. He was right back out there competing, and I think a lot of that is to his upbringing.
Brian, when you have 9 months to prepare for an opponent, and you've talked before about guys on the offensive line like McGlinchey, Nelson, some of the younger guys playing, how do you keep that emotion from spilling over into the game? How do you keep the younger guys especially level?
Well, truth be told, it was probably 8.5 months preparing ourselves as a football team, really. Texas was always on the schedule. Texas was always in their mind. They know about Texas and the history and tradition of their program and what a great opponent they are. But we were preparing ourselves, our football team, mentally and physically for the season and not just this opponent. We really didn't dial in on Texas in particular, where the emotions start to pick up until probably the last 10 days. And that's when I start to really focus in on, staying within yourself and staying focused on the task at hand and not getting outside of the things that are most important, and that is the next play. As a head coach, you're really working, on the whole team over 3.5 weeks, and then the last 10 days, you're really focusing on Texas.
Can you also explain kind of the decision process behind CJ at punt returner? And is it you were a little maybe afraid of putting Will back there, considering his status as the wide receiver?
No, not afraid at all. I mean, I think we have two real good ones, two really good options, and we're splitting hairs probably with both of them. And I could see us going back and forth with both of them playing, but not hesitant and not afraid to play him for fear of injury at any time. Just think CJ has kind of a unique knack of breaking some tackles, and hard to find sometimes, and kind of comes out of there and pops out of there. So that's why we went with him.
Brian, you talked in the spring about this team needing to establish a DNA. What are you expecting the DNA of this team to be?
Well, I think, first of all, a confidence that they have been there before. And in particular, we have a number of players, as you know, Tom, that have played a lot of football. And so I would expect that in our opener that they play with confidence. That they go out there and display that kind of experience that they do in fact have. We're not playing with, a bunch of inexperienced guys. We've got some guys with a lot of experience. Now, the quarterback is not seasoned in any shape or fashion, but he's surrounded with a lot of guys. So the DNA, I think, is in that they all know what is expected of them every single day to be successful on the playing field. But I would probably go back to, they know they're only as good as the last play, and I think that's how this team will play. They work very hard and they work with a purpose, and I think that's how they'll play.
And you've talked about this team probably is going to or has the opportunity to run more than previous teams has. Is any of that hoping that maybe it'll take a little pressure off the defense by being a better running team?
Well, I think just naturally, controlling the line of scrimmage takes pressure off of, all facets of the game. Field position, kicking game, snaps for your defense. I just, how do you play the game? If you're run and shoot and you're playing fast, you're looking to score more points, and you really don't care about all those other stats. If you're running the football, you care about some of those other things as they relate to, kicking game, field position, and things of that nature. So running the football definitely gives you some of those things in your favor. They don't always equal to winning, but they certainly can help in a lot of areas. So that's what, we feel like, if we can run the ball effectively. And again, sometimes we're not the controller of all those factors. A defense may say, look, we're going to put more guys in here and make it virtually impossible for you to run. But if we can control it and be efficient, I think it opens up all those things.
And you haven't Texas switched its offense this year. How tough is it to prepare for a team when you don't have a lot of film on them?
Yeah, well, we have the spring game, but that's about it. So unless we miss our mark, we're going to certainly see some things that we haven't seen before. But we're preparing for, the Swoops kid that certainly is a kid that throws it. We're preparing for a spread offense that has skills. So, it becomes something that we're very familiar with in playing a number of spread teams. So we're going in the game preparing against the spread and tempo, for that matter. So both of those things, I think, first and foremost. And then another quarterback who, and the Hurd kid who can run the football. So you've got to prepare really for both of them. So it's a challenge, but certainly we're preparing for a spread offense where tempo is part of it, and having two quarterbacks and one that can run the ball effectively.
And you and some of the coaches talked about how Torrey has looked really good. What exactly does he bring that maybe what is he skills that he have that other receivers don't have, or that he's better at?
Well, working inside out from that position that he plays, he's got size and great hands. I mean, he can use his hands and size against, generally players that he matches up quite well with. He's not matched up very much at all with a corner, right? He's always working off of backers and safeties, and that's a formidable matchup. That's a positive one for us. Very rarely has he got to beat a corner, and so he becomes a very, very good matchup for us. Yeah.
Brian, this way. I want to talk about your tight end rotation a little bit. You're fairly young there, and you've got some guys with nice pedigree. But is that a job that's going to be won on the field on Saturdays, do you think?
It is. I think that's a very good way to put it. I think you're going to see them all play, I think they'll all get an opportunity to contribute in some fashion, and some may play a little bit more than others. But they're all going to get a chance to be in the rotation and play, and I think Saturdays will largely determine how that is doled out relative to the reps.
Brian, there's always a litany of things you want to accomplish in camp before you get to your first game, and I don't know if there's ever enough time to get ready for an opener, but where do you feel the team is in terms of their overall preparedness and being ready to play this Saturday?
I'm very confident that we've prepared our football team to play on Saturday. I think we need to, like anybody else, we would like some Texas time, a little bit more, focus on some of the exotic things that they do with some short yardage and special circumstances. But I feel really good. This is 25 years. I think we've looked at virtually every situation and scenario. Yesterday was a wet ball drill day, and who knows, we may get weather. We're just trying to prepare for everything. It's almost like, all right, we're making stuff up here. Keep your guys fresh. I think that's the most important thing. Keep them sharp. Make sure the practices are focused and purposeful. And, I think that we've handled all of the situations leading into the game.
We'll get a chance to talk to the guys, but do you notice a change in them once game week rolls around? And can you sense there's some eagerness, maybe not anxiety, but that they're anxious to play?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yesterday was a Monday, and normally on a Monday it's pretty lethargic, coming off the weekend. It was it was a very good practice. It was focused. There was an intent to really work on getting better in all phases. Great communication, high energy. It's a very good Monday. So you know that they're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Brian, down the middle here. With Kavari playing some nickel, would you have been able to do that if Cole Luke hadn't had the kind of development he had over the last year or so?